Hi, I'm Straight Jacket Jim. You may know me from the Game on Oz esports show Nuts and Bolts, or the little short video about, oh my god, my team is trash and this is in no way my fault. The World of Tanks ANZPL Grand Final for Season 5 is almost upon us. For those not familiar with the league, this is a 5v5 format that's played across OCE in Japan. With less tanks in your typical Clan Wars battles, guns in the game matter. Strategy is key, as is the ability for callers to adapt to their opponent's plays. Let's check out how the playoffs have gone so far. Week 1 of the playoffs had the first place Scorpions take on the second place Sentinels at the upper bracket final, and saw the Sentinels book their 4th grand final appearance. Meanwhile, the lower bracket between 3rd place Action X and 4th place Comets saw the Action X progress. In Week 2, the Scorpions booked their 2nd grand final berth in a row with their consolidation final win over the Action X. With the combatants decided, all eyes will be on Fortress Melbourne on Saturday the 26th of November as the Sentinels and the Scorpions go head to head. Let's take a look at how these two titans of the ANZPL have fared this season. In a season where only 4 players participated in all of their team's matches, 2 of them are from the Sentinels. Their core roster is so strong that they had a player that didn't even play a game and they still made it to the grand final. The way they share the load around is further demonstrated by the fact that the Sentinels have the lowest average fantasy points of any team for Season 5. They are there for each other and they do what's needed for victory. The stats for the Scorpions tell a different story. All their players got a decent run with nobody playing 100% of the matches. Their willingness to swap players in and out of the lineup depending on the strategy saw them finish first in the regular season. They're also the best team for average fantasy league points in Season 5, with 4 of their players in the top 10 for total fantasy points. The Sentinels and the Scorpions have met 3 times already in Season 5. The first time in Round 3, where the Sentinels won 3-1. Their Round 8 rematch saw the Scorpions take the tiebreaker win 3-2. And of course, there was the upper bracket final in the first week of playoffs that the Sentinels won 4-2. The Sentinels may have the edge in the head-to-head, but none of the games have been blowouts. So that's the road to the ANZPL Season 5 Grand Final. With the 2 best teams in the league playing off for the championship, you can bet that there'll be fireworks. The Scorpions are looking for revenge after their defeat in the Season 4 Grand Final, while the Sentinels are hungry to prove that they are the greatest team the ANZPL has ever seen. Tickets are available now for the LAN Grand Final at Fortress Melbourne. Basic tickets are free, but there are also paid options that can include food, drink, and codes for in-game items. $10 from every paid ticket will be donated to the Movember Foundation. So grab your tickets, cheer for your team, and we'll see everybody at Fortress Melbourne for the World of Tanks ANZPL Season 5 Grand Final. Welcome to another Nuts and Bolts episode, and I'm a little bit glad that I did up that little video because there was a fair bit in that World of Tanks video previewing the Grand Final that's happening this weekend. So if you're in Melbourne, near Fortress Melbourne on Saturday night, 26th of November, go and see the World of Tanks Season 5 ANZPL Grand Final.
That should be a lot of fun, and we are jelly of everybody in Melbourne.
And most definitely jelly. It's such a great thing to get to, and while it's a ticketed event, there's a free ticket available as well as a couple of other paid options where you get various stuff like food and drink and some skins, in-game skins and stuff like that. Plus, $10 from every paid ticket goes to Movember Foundation as well. So there's that. Yeah. But if you don't have the money, you can just come along and watch. Grab that basic tier 1 ticket and get in there. And I can say, like, the Alienware Arena at Fortress Melbourne is it's amazing. I went there for the Season 4 Grand Final and it's so good. And people were just happy to have a chat and talk about the game with you. And yeah, very, very good. And of course it was Banger Series as well. They always do a curtain raiser, which is just like a heap of fun sort of stuff. So not, traditionally your normal 5v5 rules, but just a bit of fun. And then get into the best of 9 grand final, which is going to be huge. Cannot wait. And you can
I've never I never know how those guys have the stamina for that many games in a row.
Oh,
I mean, it doesn't always go to that many, but it's a
yeah.
huge night.
Well, I guess you get a little bit of a break between it, but I'm trying to remember. I wasn't really paying that much attention to that part of it. But like, if there was a green room that they could go back to in between games to just have a bit of a break and chill and recover, which I think is really needed. You know. But at least the games, like, they're maximum of 8 minutes, so like they're not super long. It's probably just going to be a couple of hours. Yeah.
Yeah,
There.
thankfully it is not a 40-minute League of
Ooh,
Legends game.
that's exactly right. But definitely, if you're there, you can get your tickets at. Hang on, I've lost the URL. Hang on, sorry. It was one of the tiny URLs, tiny.cc/WOTGF. So you get your tickets there. You can even do it like I remember. I met Mikey Mikey the Xbox Cowboy, who's one of the writers for GameOnOz.com. I met him at Fortress Melbourne before then, just as a bit of a catch up because I hadn't met him before then. And he was hanging around, and I go, "Oh, I've got to go to this," and we went, "Oh yeah, cool." He come along as well, and we're sitting there in line to get into the thing, and just got on our phones, and he got him a ticket. So it was that easy. So definitely something to go along and watch. And it's a culmination of such a great season between the Scorpions and the Sentinels, and it's just going to be so much fun to watch. But not a there's a few tournaments going on at the moment, but more sort of end of season news going on at the moment. A bit of restructuring for some leagues, particularly in League of Legends. There's been a lot of League of Legends announcements. So you may have remembered a little while back that Riot bought Wargaming Sydney and is turning it into Riot Games in Sydney now. So Riot are getting a presence back in Australia, but I don't know, some of the stuff that Riot have been announcing recently, while that seemed like a move in the right direction for OCE, the latest stuff definitely does not seem like a good move, especially with the changes to how the LCO qualify for MSI and Worlds.
Yes, there's been some very interesting news come through. So it first started with us hearing some other regions were being merged and the way that they were working was going to be changing. And then, yes, was it a couple of days ago now? We got the news through that we are joining the PCS, which is the Pacific region. So we are joining, going to have to help me here, Taiwan, Hong Kong. Hang on, I did have the list.
It was so did I. So
Taiwan, Hong Kong, Macau, Southeast Asia, excluding Vietnam.
Yeah.
They're the main regions that we're joining. And yeah, as you said, we're losing our direct entry slot, but we gain the opportunity to qualify for Worlds after our regular season runs. Our two top teams will compete against the PCS teams for the slots to Worlds.
Yeah. So the LCO still happens in its current format, so that'll still go ahead. But then after that, they'll join the PCS Pacific Championship Series and jump in there. So it's an extra layer, and I kind of hope that this may give our teams a little bit more experience, because there are some tougher teams in that. But it does mean that I don't think will make MSI or Worlds next year. I really don't. I think that's really damaged OCE's potential to compete on those world stages.
Yeah, I'm really interested to find out a bit more information about how much interaction we're going to be having with the other PCS teams, like how many games we're going to get with them for those qualifying, because I think it is advantageous for us to get more games with other international teams before we hit Worlds. But obviously, yeah, not having that guaranteed slot is definitely. I think it does decrease interest in our league potentially a little bit. You're always watching the season through and waiting for the grand final and watching it with interest because you know that team's going to go through and be competing with the best international teams. And now it's a different formula.
Yeah, and that's the worry, isn't it? That because the way you get better is by scrimming against better teams and playing against better teams. So the way the LCO is at the moment, you're only going to get as good as the best team in the region. And let's be honest, worldwide stage, that's not so good. Like, we sent Chiefs, which was arguably one of the best teams that not only the LCO, but OCE has ever seen, and they didn't win a game. And I think I'm curious to have a look at it, because since the LCO's inception, so there's been 2 years of LCO now, did Peace win I think Peace might have won a game, Order won a game, and of course PGG actually got in out of the group stages at MSI. But yeah, it's just I don't know how we can get better as a region at the moment. And I think I think there's stuff that outside of the leagues that has to happen for us to improve and get to that stage where we can be considered our own region with direct entry again.
Yeah. I think something that had come across both of our minds as well was just the way our region works is very different in that where our funding comes from has been raised privately. You know, whatever your capital has come on board with Cell to run the league, and it's frustrating from that perspective, seeing that, you know, they bought into running the league with the promise of a team from that league definitely going through into MSI Worlds, and now that's been taken away. And I just wonder if there's anything in the contract between Riot and those private, you know, interest groups that you know, they might be infringing on with making a rules change like this.
Yeah.
Because for me, it does impact the business of the LCO and what it's worth.
Oh, for sure. And I would go one step further in saying, a little bit more granular, what about the sponsorships for the individual teams? Like, now that they've got that extra step, an extra obstacle to overcome to get to an international event where that sponsor might be seen more, like, that makes it a bit harder for sponsorship money, you know? Like, you just might see that those teams suddenly don't have as much sponsorship money because, well, the higher level teams anyway, because they're not going to be seen by as many eyes, you know? It's there's financial implications all around, as well as the performance ones as well. And look, we do have to be honest here as well, because this is definitely detrimental to the OCE, but we also haven't been performing. Like, as a region, the reason that the OPL closed and the LCO started up was because Riot was losing money on running the competition here. And it was a little bit of an olive branch that Riot put out that let us have that direct entry, and I think they've looked at it and gone, we're just making up numbers in that, and just making it so that the PCS, which is not a better group, but I think a harder group of teams. So I think that's going to definitely aid us in the long run, but in the short term, there's going to be a lot of pain.
Yeah, I mean, I think anything that gives us the opportunity for more competition is good. And that's the kind of silver lining when you're looking at this. You know, PSG Talent are a fantastic team with a lot of history at Worlds as well. So I'm not getting too downer on this whole thing. And again, it depends totally on how that will work. Like, the two teams that go over to the PCS, how many games are they going to get? Are the teams going to be played over LAN, or all of those practical things I really want to find out more information about. But there is one big thing that we saw one of the LCO commentators, Rusty, point out, was the new rules around how imports work, which does have a big impact on our players.
Yeah, that's it. So as part of this change, because we've got a lot of players, and it was a lifeline offered to some of these players after the OPL shut down, where they were considered local players, I guess, for North America. But now with the entry through the PCS, they're changing that again. So the players that are currently there playing in the LCS in North America or LCS Academy teams have the option to declare residency for North America, or the PSC. But if you choose North America, and this is the point Rusty raised, if you choose North America as your residency spot, and then all of a sudden you come back home, like, because we've had some players like that. Tally's done that, you know. Does that mean that they're an import, or when they come home, can they swap? Or that makes it not so easy, because then all of a sudden an import slot's filled up with an OCE player, and would local leagues look at doing that, or would they look at bringing in some Korean talent or something like that? You know?
Yeah, and it creates a really different equation for us as far as imports go as well, because Australian and New Zealand based teams might be able to look at importing, well, not importing, but like picking up players from Hong Kong or Singapore or the other regional areas now that are a part of the PCS, which we're in as well. And yeah, it's going to be messy. It's going to be really messy. The Riot's, magical solution is a one-time option to minimize disruption, which is any current OC players will be considered PCS residents. Any that are currently playing in LCS at the end of next year will have the choice of where they want to declare for. So they'll be able to choose if they want to be considered LCS or if they want to be considered PCS.
Here's an interesting thing that I would like to know. So, this is a one-time thing, so that players currently playing in North America can keep playing in North America. But it says going forward, OCE players will be considered PCS residents. So does that mean that other players in the PCS region can be brought onto an LCO team, not as an import?
Yeah. I don't see why not.
Yeah. Because that's what the rules say to me. And it also means that those like our OCE players could go play for PCS teams.
Yeah. That's how I read it as well. I'm assuming there'll be more clarification of that as we head closer to 2023. But to me, I think we'll see a lot of trading between OCE teams and, again, Singapore, Hong Kong. I don't know a lot about how well-funded the esports teams are in the other
regions,
PCS teams. Potentially that's the new opportunity. Instead of our players, automatically going to the North American League, where they're not counted as an import slot, they have an opportunity to go play with PSG talent. Maybe they're paying $1 million. I don't know. I don't think so, but it's all going to shuffle out and be very interesting, I think, next year to see how the league forms up.
And they may class it, because the PCS do have a league that they run, and then they have a playoff series. So I'm just hang on, I'm trying to find the info again. So so there's like a PCS summer series or spring series, and then there's the playoffs, summer or spring playoffs. So, and the LCO is running, and then two of them go into the PCS playoffs. So are they going to view it as that if you don't play in that regular round robin sort of a series, that they're not going to be transfer players type thing? I don't know. It's a very strange sort of thing, and there's still a lot of questions to be answered. And like the thing for me is the PSC. You get that. Because I was looking at it, and it's interesting that there's 10 teams in there, and 8 of them go into the playoff series.
Yeah,
and it is a knockout series, so there's no what's the word?
It's not like a round robin tournament
No,
or something like that.
that's right.
Yeah.
It's not round. It's double elimination as well. So it's but seeding is done based on how people finished in the PSC at the moment. So where would adding two LCO teams suddenly fit into that? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
it seems strange, and it almost seems like it might be better off almost folding the LCO into that PSC. And I'm wondering if that might be what
the thing
Riot's
is, Riot
working towards.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment they're stuffed because they gave that contract away.
Yeah.
For us for local business to run the LCO. Who knows what it's going to look like when that contract expires?
Yeah.
If it's going to get renewed or if they'll try and fold us into the PCS. Time will tell.
Yeah, it will be very interesting, and particularly around the residency questions as well, and if we're going to see any movement between LCO players and players in the PSC. So yeah, fun times indeed.
I'm sure that's the word coming to everybody's mind about all.
No, well, it's definitely and once again, like, from an OCE perspective, this is terrible. This is objectively terrible. Like, it's cut off our entry into the international events. Although that said, arguably it could also be said that it's giving us another entry into an international event, because rather than just playing in OCE, we're now sending two teams to a regional event, I guess you'd call it, in the PCS. Yeah. And then if they're good enough, we've got a chance at 2 entry slots, but it's not a guaranteed OCE team heading to an international event. Yeah. One thing that occurred to me, and I keep going back to it because it was a very interesting chat, was the esports at the Olympics chat that I went to at PAX. And being a Perth person, the comment stuck with me. Stephen Cornish, CEO of Pentanet and also owner of Pentanet.gg, the League of Legends team, said that he would envisage having a centre here in Perth so that teams could scrim against Southeast Asian teams, because you get better ping from Perth to Singapore than you do Melbourne or Sydney to Singapore.
Yeah.
And really, if this goes ahead, that's... Well, it is going ahead, but that's not as silly as it sounds, especially if it's not a LAN event. Actually, hang on. Let me double check, because I want to see if I can get any information. Yeah, no. So the PCS playoffs was an online event. So if they were Australian OCE teams, it would make sense for them to come to Perth and play there. Or, yeah. Well, it would also make sense for them to go into Southeast Asia somewhere, but that's an even bigger expense. So it's...
Yeah, and who knows, like, that may potentially change with the, this distance issue. If all the teams were previously more closely located, but now they're not. Who knows? Who knows if they try and make it a LAN event. It's potential that it's been an online-only event for them for the last little while because of COVID, and that's something I might be looking to change.
Yep. You never know. But continuing on some LCO news, there was a bit of sad news that came out this week as well. This week, I think it was. Yeah, in the last week. Aladoric, who he's support, I think. Definitely for the Chiefs, but I'm pretty sure he's support, isn't he? I
cannot remember off the top of my head.
No. Well, anyway, he's an amazing player. I think he went over for... I'm pretty sure he went over for Peace when they went to Worlds last year, and went over with Chiefs this year. So he's got some good international experience there. But he's had some issues in his life, and he's taking a step back from professional league. And look, I'm going to give him full credit for that, because he for coming forward and saying he's having a hard time and he needs to step back, because it's a hard thing to do. it really is to say that you don't have the energy or the time to do this, and that you need to take a break.
Yeah. Yeah, especially for a profile player like him, who's had so much
Mm.
international experience. I think he's probably the kind of person that does say yes a lot
Mm.
and takes a lot on board. So yeah, absolutely a loss for the league in that way. But sounds like he's doing the right thing
Hmm.
by him and by his family taking the time away.
That's it, definitely, and we encourage people to do that because here at Goal we've got the mantra, it's okay, just a game, and really that's if you're not having fun with it, which I think really needs to be the motivator. Maybe not so much at the esports level because there is that performance component to it as well, but you need there is the sunk cost fallacy as well. You say, well, what else am I going to do? I've spent all my time doing this, and it is scary and it is hard. But if you need to do it for your not just your physical health but your mental health as well, definitely people will be understanding.
Yeah, yeah, we certainly are.
Definitely,
And
yep.
we wish him all the luck with whatever he moves on to next as well.
Mm,
That's exciting.
yep. Speaking of next, so end of the LCO split to 2022. Gravitas, of course, bowed out. Decided that because had a well, did we end up coming up with a name with it? Because it was like an imperfect split where they lost every game that they played. So
Yes,
they
yeah, I can't remember
yeah.
why they ended up getting called.
Yeah. But anyway, so they bowed out, and of course the issues that Order have mean that they've also bowed out of the LCO. But we have had two teams come in now. So a while back, Team Bliss was announced as the replacement for Gravitas, and recently as well, it's been announced that Ground Zero will also be joining the LCO. So that's going to
Which is
be
very cool.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, they're a team that's Ground Zero has been around for about 5 years, so they've got enough, I think, experience in the industry to be fielding a team now. Now is a good time for them.
Yeah. Yeah, they've had lots of experience with Rocket League. They've got a pretty good Rocket League team there, and yeah, expanding into the LCO. I can't wait to see what they bring in. Like I look at Kanga and what they've done after they came in when Legacy left as well, and for them to make playoffs in Split to 2022 as well, that was so exciting to see, and I really hope that Team Bliss and Ground Zero can bring a bit of a level of unpredictability to the league and maybe shake it up a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be exciting. I love it when we have a couple new teams in or, new players coming in. Really getting to see, yeah, a big mix up is always fun.
Yep. Cool. And last little bit of league news. This one surprised me a lot, to be honest. But the entire DRX lineup. So this is the team that just beat T1 and Faker to take out Worlds 2022. Is leaving DRX. Like the whole lineup.
Well, okay, we don't really know exactly what happened with the details, but the thing that was put out on social media was their contracts have not been renewed.
No, it wasn't even that. It was their contracts have expired.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, not that they were making a decision not to renew, but that they had
Yeah.
expired, which
Which
kind of
is
says that they wanted like those players wanted more money. Which, come on, man, they just won a world, so like I would be wanting to be paid a bit better as well. But yeah, the fact that it's said like that, it's like that they couldn't come to an agreement of of these teams, like of these players getting what they wanted and the team paying what they wanted for the players. So yeah, it just sounds like they couldn't reach an agreement and the contract just expired.
I've just gone to the original tweet. So there was a tweet from DRX on the 22nd of November,
Mm.
and they did have a follow-up which just said, in order to continue the enjoyable challenge with these players, DRX will communicate with them to try and renew their contracts.
Yeah, yeah,
So
that's exactly
it's
what's happened then. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It sounds like they're trying to keep them on board, But interesting news.
Yeah.
Hey.
Well, I also wonder, like, it's also a possibility that they've been celebrating after their win and haven't quite got back to the contract negotiating table yet. And in the meantime, while that's happened, the contract's expired. So it could just be, something a little bit sad. But why announce it like that if you're going to...
that's a way to put some pressure on, isn't it? But not a very nice negotiating pathway if that's what they're trying to do. Oh,
yeah.
I mean, you've got to believe that like LCS teams and even some of the European teams might be offering them some big money to come across as an import.
Yeah, that's the risk that DRX ran there by saying that this whole championship team is now available, and all the other orgs come and go, "Oh, sorry, what was that? I heard something over there." Yeah. But so it'll be interesting to see what happens there, because the original post. Oh, the original post was made on the 22nd of November as well, and then the follow-up was also on the 22nd of November. But it does sound a bit like a negotiating tactic by DRX for these players. So we will.
If that's no negotiating tactic, go somewhere else. That's awful.
But that's our league. A lot of league news, particularly around the LCO and the PCS stuff there. But there's
a lot of news for off season. I tell you.
That's it. We also had a little bit of Valorant news locally as well come out. I just saw this today. In fact, it was just posted this morning. In that the LPL, which is OCE's Valorant League, has been announced as the partner with Riot Games to deliver Valorant through 2022 and 2023 and 2024 as well. So another 2 years of the LPL running the Valorant League here in OCE, which is amazing. And it'll kick off with the Valorant Challengers Oceania in 2023 as well.
Yeah, I saw a nice prize pool figure attached to that announcement.
Oh yeah, and that's like just for our local league, 100,000 Australian dollars prize pool for that, plus the pathway to the APAC finals. So that's pretty cool, and especially the exciting stuff that Valorant's doing in regards to their league structures as well, because you got to remember, Valorant came out in 2020, so it's only 2 years old as an esport, and they've been doing a lot of good stuff around it, and I cannot wait to see what 2023 and forward holds for Valorant as an esport.
Yeah, it's going to be really exciting, and it's good to get this announcement a bit early as well. I feel like some of these announcements happen, and they leave everybody hanging, or you're not, if you're a player or you're a team, you're not sure, are we sticking with the LPL, or are we going to have to shuffle and make all these changes over the break before the league starts up again. So it's just good to have this kind of stuff confirmed early.
That's it, and the teams can sign to the league, and because I think some of the changes where there was an open category as well, I think. I can't quite remember. I have to go back and look at all that again, or maybe we need to get somebody on that knows it really well to explain it to us. And I might do that. Anybody watching that's keen, shout us out. The DMs are open. Another thing that I like to draw attention to is there was this exchange on Twitter that I saw between Nadeshot from 100 Thieves and someone that was... I don't think they were complaining so much, but they were definitely highlighting the fact that 100 Thieves hoodie cost $100, and I'm pretty sure that's $100 US as well, so that's pretty freaking expensive for it. So I'm actually impressed that Nadeshot decided to engage here as well. Normally you'd see a comment like that and you'd go, no, I don't want to open the can of worms here. But he has engaged, and he's set out the reasons why it costs so much. So it's stuff like it was made in America. It's 475 GSM, heavyweight, 100% cotton. And it's a very high quality hoodie. And the fact that they're not selling in large volumes as well. So whenever they're small batch runs, they're always going to be more expensive because if you order in bulk, then you get that bulk buying discount. But what was probably the bigger surprise after that was the person that originally made the comment, Agony, I'm going to call him because it's like Agony. Yeah. But he's come back and said, fair enough, makes sense. I'm not in that space, so it's more likely it's just a case of looking at it through ignorant and uneducated lens. Oh my God, somebody on the internet has admitted that they don't know everything about something.
Yeah. I mean, it's not Reddit, so you know that would just be mind blowing if happened on Reddit. But Twitter's pretty good.
Yeah, it is, and even better, Nadeshot's come back after that and says, "Appreciate the conversation. What a refreshing and rational back and forth." And then he said, "DM this other user with your address and size. We'll send you out an item from the collection for free."
Yeah, which is very cool.
That is very cool, and it goes to show that if you're nice, good things happen. So you don't need to attack everybody. And even like the way that Agony sort of raised it was like, love you and the team, but geez, it's $100 for a hoodie and almost $100 for pants. No wonder it's 100 thieves. But yeah. So there's a little bit of tongue in cheek there. But I think the fact that he came back and went, you know what, fair enough. I don't work in the manufacturing industry when it comes to things like clothing, so I didn't know that, so now I do. Yeah,
I think we're really used to like fast fashion prices. Like at the moment I can walk into Kmart or Target and get a $10 hoodie and it's insane. It's insane that it is made by a human and shipped and on the shelf and sold to me for $10.
Well, that's the thing as well, like when you're talking about stuff that's manufactured in like Australia or America or England and stuff like that, a big part of the cost there is the labor cost. And that's why stuff from third world countries is so much cheaper, because their labor costs are so much cheaper to the point where it's almost criminal. In fact, in fact, if it was anywhere else, it would be criminal. But yeah, it's, but yeah, it's, and so the fact that they getting quality, locally made stuff, it's always going to raise the price.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And just wonderful to see that back and forth. I really think that from a marketing perspective, that's a really good way that 100 Thieves handled that, because it shows transparency. It shows they're willing to communicate and come to the table if people do have criticisms of what they're doing. Rather than what you were saying of just ignoring it or burying it or whatever other choice that might get made in that situation.
Which really, like, ignoring it is probably generally the way it goes, just because of the responses you get to stuff like that. Like, the internet is not a pretty place sometimes, and especially in the video game, there's like a lot of toxic stuff that happens in the video game space. It's getting better, but it's still there. But yeah, no, very nice to see that this civil discourse happened. Yeah,
absolutely, and leading into that, that merch is a fabulous way for you to support your esports teams. I know everybody goes and grabs a footy scarf just because they need to keep warm, but definitely worthwhile if you are supporting a team, looking and see what merch they have available. I know a lot of the teams work with local manufacturers here as well, so we have a similar vibe to things might be a little bit more expensive, but it's always really good quality.
Yeah, that's right. And like I must admit, the only bit of esports merch I own is a PGG jersey. That it was $80, $60 or $80, I think it was, but it's really good quality material, and it's like proper sports jersey type material. And they put my gamer tag on the back and on the sleeve as well. So and they also got a local Indigenous artist to do the artwork for it too. So it's a really cool looking jersey, and like so many other orgs do the same sort of stuff, and it's a great way to do it. And even like like esports is one of the only places I feel where the leagues have shirts made up. Like I've seen so many people walking around in ESL shirts just because they want to support that particular league or the org that runs the leagues.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I just think that's really cool that they have that kind of reputation that people want to wear their gear. Like, uh, I don't know how many people would just wear an AFL top
They
that
wouldn't.
didn't have their team on it.
No, it wouldn't happen. And it's an interesting thing that we've spoken about before as well, where like coming from a traditional sports background, if that's where you come from, because that's definitely where I came from. Big West Coast Eagles fan, and there's a lot of emotion tied up in the game. And there are people that will watch a lot of football and they'll appreciate a good game. I like to think I can watch a good game of almost any sport and appreciate it, even soccer. I was never actually no word of a lie. I was never a big fan of soccer, but the only soccer I got to watch was Australian soccer. And then I spent a year in England, and there is that much soccer there you can't avoid it, and it is so much fun when you get a good game. So Australian soccer, you need to up your game, but it's very much filled with emotion. It's very much filled with distaste and almost hatred for other teams that are not your team. But esports doesn't have that. Like there are people that will say, "Oh, I don't like that team, don't like that team," but it doesn't verge on that vitriolic type stuff. And it's you see it in OCE where people will support a region that goes to an international event. Like I'm a PGG fan, but when Chiefs went to Worlds, I was a Chiefs fan when they were there. And you see it in the North American and European and like all the various regions in Asia. They will support their region's team that goes there, which doesn't happen a lot. Not in traditional sports, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I think the structures around esports operate very differently to traditional sports in that way. But you always hear about the fair weather fans or the fans that only stick with their teams when they're winning. I think when it comes to esports, I find people are genuinely interested in the game, which is what you were talking about.
Yeah.
So they'll watch any teams play, and then they'll find an excuse to root for somebody.
That's it. Usually it's the underdog for me. Like, who's expected to win? Cool, I'm going for the other team. Thanks.
Yeah.
But yeah, so moving on from that one. So there was an interesting article I think you linked me to, Natty, about Blizzard pulling out of China. Now, I'm going to guess that this wasn't Blizzard's choice because it's a thing in China where you have to be partnered and basically sell your products through a local Chinese company to be able to sell those products in China. And Blizzard has an arrangement with a group called NetEase. It's also why Tencent is so big, because that's where most video game developers go or tech people go to get into China, through Tencent. It's why they're so huge, and it's the probably the biggest company that a lot of people haven't heard of. But yeah, so in this case, Blizzard has not been able to reach a deal with NetEase, so it means that their games will have to be pulled from those shores.
Yeah, it was absolutely nuts. So yeah, it was published in a few different places, but from what I was reading, Blizzard publicly said they were just unhappy with the terms and conditions that they were being asked to meet around data sharing of users. So the Chinese representative company NetEase were asking for a lot of user information that Blizzard were not happy for them to receive, which good on them. I think if that is what was happening, but also it would be really sad if we couldn't have the best of players everywhere in the world all competing at the esports that we love. Things like Hearthstone and Overwatch 2 are really impacted by this. So we're not going to see teams from China being able to compete unless they move.
It's something else to consider as well, in that are these changes to the conditions that NetEase are bringing in something that they're doing, or is it something that the Chinese government is changed their laws so that this needs to happen? And if Blizzard are at the point where they're saying, no, we don't want to meet them, what about other companies that are operating in China? Are they okay with... I really want to know what these terms and conditions are. And like we'll never find out because, commercial in confidence stuff. But the fact that a company has stepped back and said, no, we're not going to sign this and shut ourselves off from, what is it, 2-3 billion people. That's a big call. That's a lot of money they're saying no to because they don't like the terms and conditions in the contract.
Yeah, an insane amount of money, and we see other companies like Disney bending over backwards
Winnie the Pooh who?
to support their products in China, and for Blizzard to be making this kind of call, you feel like it must be something really egregious or heinous going on in the backgrounds. Again, we could all be being completely manipulated, and it's all about money, and Blizzard have put this out, and it's smearing the name of Netties and making things look worse than they are. Who knows? We could be being played.
I must admit, the first time I saw this was from an article on the New York Times. So I don't know where it originated from, whether Blizzard put this out or whether maybe it leaked in inverted commas because, we know that there are some deliberate leaks that happen.
So Blizzard put out a press release.
Oh, okay.
So it was directly from them. And I definitely should have sent you the press release rather than the article talking about the press release. Talking about that. I find this really fascinating when we look at esports being a global thing. We talk about AFL, that's just, locally in Australia. We don't have to worry about how other countries are doing business and having to work with them. So, as of December 31st, it could be that no more Warcraft, Diablo, Starcraft, Overwatch in China.
It still does my head in a little bit. Like, you got to wonder if it's something that the information they're collecting about the player base, if it's about the Chinese player base, or if maybe they tried to work something in there that anybody playing on those Chinese servers they collect the information about, which could potentially be people not Chinese citizens, and if maybe that's where the line that Blizzard's drawn. Because it seems funny to me that, this, you got to remember as well, this is this is the company that there was that player in Hearthstone and it's still going on, you just don't hear about it as much, but when all the stuff was going on in Hong Kong and like China was stepping down real hard on Hong Kong, and that Hearthstone player won, and as part of his interview said free Hong Kong, and like the casters were ducking down behind the desk. The casters got blacklisted for a while from stuff. The player got banned and his prize money taken away and stuff like that. And there's been a bit of a change behind the scenes with Microsoft's acquisition, which still hasn't happened yet. But I think it will, but it's taking a long time. So like they're not adverse to bowing to some Chinese pressure, shall we say. And now this has come out and said, no, we're not doing it. So you got to wonder if maybe they're whatever they're trying to do is affecting people outside of China. Yeah. But yes, like I said, we'll never know.
Well, there may be a journalist out there that gets their hands on the information we're after. So I was just reading this. So sorry, it does end on January 23rd, 2023. And it's just huge. Just huge. Huge
market to cut themselves off from. But moving on, the last bit we've got to talk about in this episode of Nuts and Bolts is, and this is what I'm gonna get on my high horse about this one because like it's such a stupid move and it's so misleading. I think because when you think of esports, you think of sports played in a video game. You think of stuff like League of Legends. You think of Rocket League. You think of Dota. You think of CS:GO, Valorant, COD, Fortnite, all these other TFT, all these games that you play. But the IOC, which is the International Olympic Committee, has confirmed that Singapore will host the first Olympic Esports Week in June 2023. And I saw that headline and I went, "You beauty, this is going to be great. We're going to see some great esports played there." No, they're not esports. They're virtual sports. And this is stuff that the Olympics has had before, where it's like virtual rowing or virtual cycling and stuff like that. It's not an esport. It's a virtual sport.
Oh man, so close yet so far.
I know, and I got excited as well because like there's talks going on at the moment for the Brisbane, was it 2032 Olympics, of having actual esports in there. And which I think is going to be a reality, especially after the Commonwealth Games trialled it. I think that they found some success there, and I think there's a potential to grow it for Olympics, and also to make Olympics a little bit more relevant. Because let's face it, I think esports can bring more to the Olympics than the Olympics can bring to esports. But the fact that they go and do this and say, Olympic Esports Week, yay, cool, let's go and do it. And we're going to be showing off the best of virtual sports, hybrid, like this is the actual line in the press release. So it's got, in partnership with the Ministry of Culture, Community and Youth, Sport, Singapore and Singapore National Olympic Committee, the Olympic Esports Week will showcase the best of virtual sports, hybrid, physical and simulated sports with the 4-day festival. So that's not esports. No. It's...
No. You're 100% right. It's virtual sports, and I am frustrated. Yeah. I'm not quite on my shoebox. There's room for you. Oh, soapbox. Sorry, there's room for you alone on there. But it's just disappointing. And I think we've been talking about the last few weeks of how the name esports kind of gets co-opted and where is the line, and it's a little bit blurry. We saw that with the web design esports competition last week we were talking about, and the Excel esports competition, but at least they're not simulated of something that happens in the real world, and you're just purely trying to emulate a sport or something that happens in the real world. But it's not a video game, man.
No, it's really not. It's like the guy that there's that golf thing where you can go and sit in front of a screen and whack the ball as hard as you can and it'll send it off dry. That's virtual golf. It's not a golf game. It's just virtual golf. It's we come so far, and yet then there's still stuff like this happens.
Dude, we're just learning how to spell esports. Then we throw this into the mix.
I'm glad we've kind of come to the consensus that esports is just a word now. And so, like, if you're capitalizing it, it's just a capital E and then lowercase sports.
Yes.
Or if it's just a general terminology, it's all lowercase. Like, But
definitely needs extra hyphens and extra capital letters.
But oh my God, this is like going back to the day when the internet was new and exciting for people. And like, I'm talking the 90s, and like email these days is all lowercase. But when it first came out, it was little e, big M, little AIL. And it's just like everything was like that. E-commerce was little e, big C. And and I'm glad we've moved beyond that for esports.
Yes.
But look, I guess I'll be paying at least an eye on it, because they haven't actually announced what sports are going to be in it yet. That's going to be revealed early next year. So, like, there's still a little bit of hope that maybe they'll include an actual esport, but I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, we'll just have to wait and see. But, maybe this is a stepping stone. I'm trying not to be too harsh on them. This could be a stepping stone in the right direction. Maybe we'll be ready by 2032 in Brisbane. Yeah. Maybe actual esports.
Maybe I'm not giving the IOC enough credit. Maybe this is a stepping stone for them going, yeah, cool, look, we're doing esports already. Let's just slide this video game in here and we can do that. Maybe that's their plan, to get all the old people that watch the Olympics actually paying attention to it.
If that is a roadmap for them, I am actually impressed, because that would be very thoughtful decision making. I doubt that it's always.
Well, look, I don't know. I've seen stranger things happen in terms of changing thinking on things. So like, and it's always a long game when you're trying to change thinking. So maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But I'm happy if they'll come out later on after esports and go, yeah, it all started back in 2023 when we did this, and yeah. But anyway, that's nuts and bolts for this week. Thank you everybody for watching. Don't forget, if you are keen, you can grab your tickets at tiny.cc/WOTGF to the World of Tanks ANZ Season 5 Grand Final for the 26th of November.
I need to just quickly remind people as well, we're still running our Movember campaign. So if you want to donate to that, please do. We've got links up on our social medias. And you need to tune into Twitch to watch the show sometime to see Straight's beautiful moustache.
That's it. Like, I was going to shave this morning before we were recording this, but I went camping on the weekend and got just a little bit sunburnt, and I haven't been game enough to take to my face with a razor just yet. But... maybe next week, because I think, well, it's almost, November's most of the way done now. We've only got, in fact, next time this airs on twitch.tv/GameOnOz, it will be the 1st of December.
It will be.
So definitely get in there, get your donations in. We would very much appreciate it. We did hit our first donation goal on Tuesday night. We had our Goa team gaming stream. We played Fall Guys. So much fun.
Yeah.
When is Fall Guys becoming an esport? I would love to see that.
Well, what's that a simulation of? This clumsy people?
Well, it's a race. It's just a race, though. Like,
I know. I was just joking. Yeah. just joking.
Now I'm just thinking because like they've got the soccer game in there, and now I'm thinking of we could just continually play the soccer game, or there's the egg game where you've got to like get the eggs back to your basket and stuff like that, and whoever has the most eggs wins. And I'm just sitting there thinking, cool, I could do. I like the idea of that. Let's get into that. But anyway, yes, that's all for us. Movember is happening. Please donate if you got some money there. And yeah, the tickets for World of Tanks ANZPL Season 5 Grand Final is on. And it's also going to be live on twitch.tv/World of Tanks ANZ as well if you can't make it over there. I know that's what I'll be doing on Saturday night. Unfortunately, I can't make it over because flights are just ridiculously expensive. But definitely going to be tuning in to watch that and see how we go there. So I hope you guys do as well, and have fun. We'll see you all next week.